Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete, your YouTube shop teacher. Welcome back, and this is part 2 of a 2-part series on the restoration of this Beverly B2 throatless shear. Now, if you're new to my channel, I have 1,200 shop videos. Do a YouTube search for tubalcain and they will all come up. Tubalcain is in every title. Now let's talk about this little beauty. If you have not watched part 1, be sure and go back and do that. In that part, I disassembled the shear and I removed the rust with electrolysis. I solved a mystery. In part 1, I talked bitterly and extensively about the welding spatter and who welded on this, or who, it was Bubba, welded on the table. There was spatter everywhere. And then the other mystery was, why is there so much galling on some of these parts? You know, it's just horrible. What would have caused that? I suspected that dirt and grit got in there, but that was not it, and I discovered what caused that. Let me talk about that. Okay, there's welding spatter all over this, or used to be. And you see two particularly big spots right here of welding spatter on the serial number. So I thought, no problem, I'll just file that off. But that is absolutely as hard as a diamond. So what went on here? Well, Bubba took hard surfacing rod and attempted to restore the gear teeth. Therefore, there's spatter all over the place, and then some spatter ended up on these surfaces right here and here, and then when it was reassembled, those incredibly hard particles in the rotation of the machine here galled these surfaces. So that is what caused it. But why was he wanting to use hard surface? Here's why. So what he apparently did was to hard surface some of these teeth. And then he did not grind them down to conform to their original shape, but assembled it and used it, and then these large blobs of hard surfacing did this damage to the teeth on this piece over a period of time. Those big, what appears to be pits, are just marks, not marks, from this happening over and over with a big blob of hard steel in there. So it did a lot of damage. And I tried to file those out, smooth them. Again, I can't do that. It has to be done with a grinder. So I did take my grinder and touched all of this up to knock the spatter off, which was a bigger job than you thought because it was so terribly hard. But that's as good as it is going to get. So now I am ready to start masking it and then painting it. And apparently this big hole that he blew in here, and that's where I guess where I first discovered how hard that was. There was a big blob of metal on there, and it absolutely could not be filed off. Like I said, harder than a diamond. So I did grind that down, but not too much I could do about this big pock mark. Thanks, Bubba. Okay, I'm going to mask the main casting, get it ready to prime, and the finish coat of navy gray. Well, while I'm painting, I might as well paint the new handle too. As I told you before, there is a bend in this original handle, right about in here. So this is 1-inch gas pipe. I'm using 1-inch water pipe. It's a railing off the old bleachers at school. And I do recall that the one I had at school had a cap on it. This one does not, but I went ahead and turned the cap and pinned it with a roll pin, and I'll paint the whole thing, even though Galvanize, as you know, does not hold paint very well. You know what? I've been saving this piece of pipe for, well, it was 1980 when they replaced the bleachers and I became the owner of an incredible amount of scrap material. Most of it was painted brown, but this was one of the railings. It all folded up, you know. Well, it's 2 days later, and I have both primed and sprayed a finish coat on it, and that's Rust-Oleum Smoke Gray, which I used on something last August, evidently. I don't remember what. So I just got to take the masking off, and it's ready for me to start reassembling. It's several days later and I'm ready to assemble. The paint is dry, and I've taken this hone and removed any of the spatter off of here, and that was so hard that in some spots I had to use the Dremel to break through that hard surfacing spatter. But these are all cleaned and will be lightly greased as I reassemble it. I'm extremely ashamed to tell you that for now I'm going to use the old blades. I do not have replacement blades. I did take a hone, a diamond hone, and work the edges just a little bit, but I really don't think I did much to it. Now, there was a man in one of my videos that offered to sharpen these for me. He said he was an expert at it. I don't want anybody resharpening these that is not doing it as they would do at the factory, but if he would get a hold of me again, I lost the email, I might send these to him. But for now, I'm going to use these. But let me show you what I discovered. First of all, they were attached by, originally, flathead slotted screws. You never can get these very tight. And one of them was brass. So I acquired some flathead cap screws that are hardened that I can get really tightened. I had to cut some of them off to the right length, so those I will not use. But here's what I discovered also. Notice that there is a drill that went through there. Well, Bubba, there was a broken off bolt in here about 1/4 inch down, so he was using this extremely short screw, brass, to hold it in place, which was no good. But when he tried to drill the old screw out, he went so crooked with his hand drill that it came out here. It's just nowhere near where it should be. So I did take this to the milling machine with an end mill and removed most of that screw. You can still see a little bit of it right here, but I am able to get a screw of sufficient length in there, and it's straight. So let me go ahead and assemble that. By the way, did you ever try to buy flathead cap screws locally? No way. I did have a few in my scrap box, so that's what I'm making do with for now. I did buy some of these, but decided not to use them because you just can't get these tight and they strip out. So I'll go ahead and tighten these 3. Note that I drilled 3 mounting holes in this old school table, at least to temporarily mount the Beverly Shear for test purposes. Now I will apply a very thin layer of grease on these sliding surfaces. And now to mount this part, and this is called the ratchet according to the parts manual. I don't know where they get that name. It's not really a ratchet at all. Now when I took this apart weeks ago, I was wondering if there was a nut missing here, because the bolt sticks out quite a ways and you really do not want this to back off. So I looked at the parts list, and sure enough, it shows a nut that should go on that bolt. 5/8 course. Okay, I have a 5/8 nut here, but I would prefer to have a thin pattern jam nut without any plating on it for authenticity. And I'm going to snug that up. You can see this nut is too thick and it does not require a washer. I'm not sure how much tension I need on this. I'm sure I will have to adjust it later on. And now I will attach my newly made and newly painted handle. Next comes the fixed jaw. Now remember that I made a new pin here. The other pin was just totally beat up. So a pin and a set screw go in this one, and then just a set screw over in this hole. Judging from the amount of space that there is right here, I am guessing that this blade has been sharpened several times, but I'm really only making that up. Now, I watch people all the time reassembling, and they seem to never use lubricant on their old fasteners, and I don't know why. That just kind of galls me. And I'm going to put this on temporarily and just finger tight. That's the clamp that holds the fixed blade in position after it is adjusted properly. So these are the directions that Beverly supplied in regards to the clearance for the blade, and it said that the setting should be 1/4 to 1/10 the thickness of the metal to be cut. Now, we certainly aren't going to be changing that each time we make a cut. So I'm, for now, going to just set it with the feeler gauge at 10 thousandths and then take a trial cut. Okay, the shear is mounted to the table with 3 3/8 bolts. If this was a steel table, of course, I would weld it to the table. Okay, I'll bring the blades into position here. And then I want 10 thousandths right there, and of course right now it's way too much. We do not want the two hardened blades to touch one another, even while I'm adjusting it, because they would chip very easily. And this one really is just right. Got to come back to this one or check it in the middle. Now that seems to be just right, so I will tighten securely the locking bolt, which pushes this blade into that taper. Okay, we are approaching the grand finale. Next, I'm going to attach the nameplate. Now, this is the one that Matt Krug bought from Miles O'Malley. There was a whole stack of them. It is not the correct one. I think the SS stands for slitting shear. I'm not totally positive, but this one never did appear to have a tag on it. At least there's no holes here, and I don't think years and years ago that they used a sticker. So I'm going to put it right here, and which is the correct location, but I believe they were blue, the ones that went on this model, B2. I'm going to just use double stick tape, at least for now, because I do not have any of those little drive pins. Well, we'll see how long that lasts. By the way, this tag is made of zinc, a seldom used metal anymore. All right, a drum roll if you please. Now, I do not expect this to cut like brand new or sharpened blades, but I hope it cuts a little better than what it did in part 1. This is just aluminum now. Not bad, just a little bit of a burr on the back side, but considering the condition of the blades, that isn't too bad. Now let's try that galvanize. This is again 28 gauge, and the thinner you go, I think the harder it is to get a good cut. Remember, we can cut curves with this too, but for this real short demonstration, I'm just cutting a straight line without a layout. Not bad at all. Again, a burr here, and you could cut yourself on that. All sheet metal workers have cuts on their fingers every day, don't they? And here's some copper. I believe it's off of a roof or flashing. Very soft metal. Very little burr. Okay, I'm satisfied with it the way it is. I may still in the future, I'm trying to get this video done and this job done, but in the future, if I have sharpened blades, I will install them. I'm not sure I'll ever show that, or if I acquire a new set of blades. But remember, blades are about $150 from the outfit in St. Louis that now manufactures this Beverly Shear. And remember to always shear it cleverly on a Beverly, and this is a shipping tag. I'm not so sure that they ship these just with a tag around them in a semi. I know years ago when I worked at the hardware store, vices and anvils and things like that were not put in a crate. They just had a heavy-duty wired tag on them. Well, that completes this two-part video on the Beverly Shear, which I made over a 2-week period, and I thank Mike Reisner ever so much for donating it for the good of the cause, and I think I've got a good usable tool here for the shop. Be sure and leave a comment. If you like this type of video, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe, and and all of that good stuff. Hit that notification bell as well, and always look in the comments for links and different things that I might say to you or edit the video, because I'm not able to go into a video and edit it. It has to be done in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stand by for 20 still pictures.
What's going on?
Look at me.